Hello everybody, Poncianinho speaking here from Brighton. It is a rainy day today, it's a very cozy day. I haven't done a vlog for some time now, so this is vlog number 17, okay? And the idea for this vlog came from, again, anybody who has followed my vlogs know that it's mainly things that I'm discussing or talking about in class with my students. An idea comes up, we're exploring something, and some things I think this is probably interesting enough to share. Other things are in very early stages, and therefore they're not ready to share publicly yet. I think this one, it's a vlog that will mean a lot to a lot of people, okay? And the reason why I'm doing is because one of my students did say to me, you've got to make a vlog about that one, because they thought was very powerful the way I've explained this. They thought it has changed the way they practice this week. Particularly yesterday, which was Sunday, so today is Monday the 12th, so Sunday, 11th of March, which is yesterday, I applied some of this, and what I can say to you is that it felt like an explosion of colors in the room. Okay, now if you think about, once I've explained what this vlog is about, I'll go back to this example of the class that happened yesterday, and you'll be able to understand why I said an explosion of colors. So basically this vlog is about creativity, okay? But hopefully I'll be exploring a side of creativity that is not just about how to be creative and what is creativity. Of course, the idea of being creative appeals to, even the word, as soon as you say, right? Even from a child, if someone says you're creative, oh, that's wonderful, no, that whatever you do. I think we have a lot of positive connotations with the word creative, okay? You tell anybody that they are creative and they're probably going to like that, you know. So we have positive association with the word creative. But some of the points for me that what it means to be creative in capoeira, I don't think to be creative in capoeira is just to be different. That I don't think that those two things follow. I think you can be different from someone else, or different from what you've learned, or different from the trend at the moment, and not necessarily be creative. So they don't necessarily follow. There's more to creativity. I think it's a craft that is much deeper, much more profound than just saying, I'm going to do something different. I think we should all be able to have our experimentation and experiment things. But if you think about some source where you experiment from, and then you can move on to another source, but then that becomes your source of creativity, okay? Now, I wrote a few points here that I want to share with you. So that's why I'm looking down sometimes. Here is the paper that I've written. The first point I want to raise, which is what made people talk to me about making this vlog in particular, is what movements in capoeira that we call fundamentos da capoeira, né? Fundamentals of capoeira, and what perhaps are movements that doesn't give us such a creative power, okay? So basically I believe that there are some movements that arrive perhaps later in capoeira that have a less of a creative energy into them. Now, it's very important that by now I make a disclaimer to say that, of course, this is my opinion, and it's a question of style, it's a question of preference, it's a question of, I prefer that genre and I prefer that. So I'm not here saying that this is some sort of universal truth of capoeira. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying what works for me. So if anybody can see my style, how I play capoeira, I try not to use that in my style as if it's something that I develop or I create. But of course, if they can see how I move, if there's any value in that to you that could help you in your capoeira, then you want to think about this for sure. Because I think this goes so deep into how you move. Okay, we'll get to the point, but I do need to build up. I need to warm you up to what I'm going to say. Otherwise, you'll just feel that I've rushed into the punchline and didn't prepare you to the joke. Okay. So I think that from a very early age, when I was a young boy, I always had a fascination for detail. I always had a fascination for the way that a person moves, okay? So I haven't got it with me, but I was trying to find, I will find this book. I have got a book, which is just, a notebook like that from my school, not from my capoeira school, from the school I used to go to. And then there's a few pages in that book, which is some writings. I'm glad I have that, because it just reminds me of my fascination at that time. And I was making notes about how does one mastery stays on the tiptoes when he does that movement. How does the other mastery moves the head this way. So it was a real attention to detail, was an attention to expression. Now that I'm more mature, I understand better that what I was actually searching, what I was doing, and what was captivating me was the presence, the essence, the expressions, the feelings, even more, that some of the masters were able to express. So I'm making a connection between the word creativity and expression. How do you express yourself? How does a painter express his or herself through a painting, in a creative form? Now, of course, we're doing that in capoeira, but I just think that there are movements that have a roof, perhaps. Okay. Now, I am not saying the acrobatic movements are not creative. They are very creative. They are very hard. They're extremely creative. But I think that there's a certain limit to some movements in terms of creative power. So what I feel now is that yes, you can jump higher, you can do a different twist, you can add something at the end, but you end up starting to add a different type of preparation or different ending. The jumps itself, the acrobatic movements themselves, I'm not talking about macaco, estobrado, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about some movements that now are very highly acrobatic. And that's a style of capoeira that it's pleasing for a lot of people, and that's absolutely fine. Remember, I'm telling what, for me, it gives me more energy of creativity, okay? And that could be to do with the fact that I'm actually never been that good at acrobatics. I mean, I did all the basics, and well, I was again fascinated by quality in them and landing. So I really could not. I couldn't just do a movement that didn't look right and landed a little bit. I just didn't like it. Just felt so wrong. So I trained that whatever I did had a really good landing and a good start and that kind of stuff. And not just trying to impress people by amount of jumps. I don't think that was part of my repertoire ever. But of course you can be creative with that. But what I wrote here is creativity in movement. So what movements limitate your creative force? Have a sort of a roof where you can only increase some of the quality of the movements. As I said, you can increase the height, you can increase the speed, you can increase all these things. They are attached to synesthesia, to the movement itself. Okay. However, the movements of fundamento of capoeira, of course, like ginga, or let's use another example, negativa. I think that these movements have a infinite source of creativity. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit more to the point now. The reason why I think these movements from the masters of the past, and if you study all the capoeira masters of the past, and I'm not just saying Angola masters, not just saying Angoleiros, I'm talking about all the masters from the past that you will relate to what I'm saying now, and you can start to think about the capoeiristas, not just the masters, the capoeiristas. I always say masters, 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 but we're talking about capoeiristas, okay? I close my eyes now and I think about so many people in my school that had all these elements here, okay? They might not have got a title of a mastery, but you know, we're talking about an art form. So, a rolê can be done in so many different ways. I'm not talking about the physicality only. I'm talking about a rolê can be done a little bit more scared, a little bit more reluctant, a little bit more devilish, a little bit happy, a lot happy, not so happy, very sad. I'm using words here to just try to describe some of the creative energy that you can be used in a movement like rolê. Now let me give you a specific example that happened yesterday that really did change the movement. We were doing this movement that was like so I'm not sure if you can see well with it, but it was a movement that is a bit like a resistência, but with a esquiva. So it was a fall backwards, and you fall backwards, but you push the hip forward and so on. So it's like this kind of fall. And I was first talking to them about bend your knees, stretch your hip flexors, put your hand in your chest, chin down. I was giving them all the points about the movement. Then I told them, now let's use another source of power. Now you're going to act a little bit scared as you fall. Please don't kick me. That kind of negating the movement, okay? Negativa, to negate the movement. It's again poetic. The response was so powerful. I mean, they were holding, I'm sorry, I just kicked the camera. They were holding the movement for so much longer, only because they were now expressing something else. They were no longer just concerned with the physicality of the movement. That was not the point anymore. The point was to express themselves, to find a force of creativity that will help them to express something, a feeling. So when I think about the games that I saw in the past, and now of course, we're not just talking about the past, this is happening right now. There are many capoeiristas that do exactly that. I'm only using the past because obviously I have a very vivid image of the masters of the past that laid this work for us, you know. So when we say capoeira is an ancestral art form, it's in so many levels. In so many levels, we can go very deep into the social aspect, into the anthropology aspect of why do we talk about capoeira being an ancestral form of art. But if I just stay on this level for now, in the movement level, that's why you start to understand why are we so passionate and why do we appreciate so much style. These are all forms of expressions. Anything from the movements to the way the masters, you know, spoke or dressed or sung, you know. That's why you start to appreciate as they get older. Some of that stuff gets better. It really does get better. It's not just that they are not doing that movement because they no longer can. It's because they are refining something else that they know gives them bigger pleasure because it's more creative. When they start to respond to the game, when you start to respond with the other one, with those interactions that are more related to feeling, what happens is you have a bigger pleasure out of the game because now you're being creative. You're finding a way of expressing yourself. This can go so deep into our identity. It's one thing that defines us is how you express yourself. We all need to express ourselves. We all need our ways to communicate with the world. Some people are very good at words, with spoken words, with language, with writing, with painting, with music, with singing. Some people are good at everything. others can't talk in public. How many of us say that? Oh, I cannot talk in public, but they can make beautiful music. So these are all forms of expression. And capoeira is another one. Capoeira is a form of expressing yourself. So if we constantly listening to that, constantly we hear expression, express yourself, capoeira have to be expressive. But if we don't go deep into why they were so expressive, why those masters, those capoeiristas were and some are so expressive, that's because they use a source of energy that is beyond physicality. It's beyond just stretch your hip flexors. It's the expression in the movement, and they use physicality for that. Of course, one of the points that I wrote here is so I said some move, and with other movements there is no roof, there is no limit to those movements. It is open for further exploration. Okay. Now my work is on the thinking and creative side of the spectrum. So yesterday I was asking them to do lots of creative tasks. One of them was, you are in a position of ginga, or you are doing a ginga, and you ought to simulate your legs being pulled, your foot's being pulled, okay, in many directions. Now of course you can train that in pairs, you can just train rasteira, you can just train those movements. But I want them to have that with themselves, to think about, okay, I'm here, that foot is being pulled, how do I fall? Again, when I asked them to do that, there was this explosion of different colors in the room, because the different ways that they were falling, from the back foot, from the front foot, from doing a kick, and then from that foot, it was incredible. I could see that their minds were being creative, using imagination, imagining someone doing something. And more than that, a lot of my students did some things that were amazing, and when I stopped and I said, right, you know that thing that you did, and they could not remember. And I thought, this is a shame. I need to work this with them, because a lot of time when I train, I'm sure I miss a lot, but a lot of time when I train, if I do something that feels right, feels good, or creative, or whatever, or fits very well with my capoeira, I instantly register that, and then I do again. Oh, this is work. I'm workshopping that. A lot of people, they will do things and it just is missed. They're not conscious. Why? Because they only know one format, which is to follow the teacher in front. So they can only follow the teacher that is in front of them, and they just are very good at that. So they haven't learned how to draw energy from, well, themselves, really, their minds, the creative energy that they have. So they are not able to process and to remember, oh, I've just done something that feels great. Okay, great, this is work, so let's do it again, and then workshop that to themselves. Sometimes they're not given that time. So I want to combine both. I also made a point, it is good and it's okay to follow. So I also like those classes where I'm in front and your job is not to think much, just follow me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, it's mechanics, we're improving the body. It's so important. This is what I've done for many, many years. It's not about every class you're going to come in and you're going to just let's draw energy for the creative source. No, you've got to follow, you've got to practice the movement, you've got to learn different combinations, but you also have to combine that with these other elements that we're talking about, creativity. So yesterday I explored a lot of different ideas today, and I started to tell them about what you can do with one rolé in terms of expression. Then next time you see a capoeirista that really has those feelings bubbling up in their skin, in their eyes, the way they move their head, then you are in a roda, everybody's benefiting from this because you are learning more, you absorb that, you can appreciate that. I mean, that's like saying someone who practice singing but have no ears to appreciate any of the great masters in singing. And he's just repeating the teacher. Do that note, do that note, do that note. But it's not drawing any emotions, feelings, any of the creativity from learning from the masters and then applying. As I said, this is a deep subject because it's not just, it's not a simple thing to say, be creative. That stuff doesn't really work. Be creative. Okay, what next? What do we do next? So that's what I've been exploring in my classes now. And we had a few days of really some amazing hits there. But I did want to bring your attention to this because, again, I think about the creativity that's being given to us by all these great teachers, by all these capoeiristas in the past, and now as well, they're around us, they're here, but all these people that left this legacy. So this legacy to, again, what reminds us of the ancestral force of capoeira. That's why I'm endlessly talking about Mestre Valdemar, Mestre Pastinha, Mestre Bimba, my master. That's why we're always talking about them. I was once asked by this person, I said, was Mestre João Grande really good? Of course, the right thing to say is Mestre João Grande really good, not was. And I said, yes, really, really, really good. And the guy said, but aren't you saying that he was good to the standard of the time? But if you compare him now to some capoeiristas now, I said, no, no, no. He is, but he was really, 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 really good. It's timeless. It's not about the standard of that time. Because if you start to understand what I'm saying, you will totally understand why the hands, the feet, the mouth, the expression are an endless source of inspiration, are an infinite source of creativity that you cannot compare with a higher jump. It doesn't compare. Now you can argue that that's what you like, that's absolutely fine. I really do not say, I'm not like forcing into preaching that way. No, don't enjoy that. You've got to enjoy that. That's not what I'm saying. Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if you understand how expressive a negativa can be, or a rolê can be, or how much of the person's life it's in the movement, then that's it. Then there is no comparison. I'm using Mestre João Grande as one example of all this wonderful universe of capoeiristas. They're there. I saw a photo yesterday of there was a thing on Instagram of capoeira photo, and it was Mestre Janja, and the guy took the photo in a great, I don't know who took the photo, so I'm sorry, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but she had her eyes closed like that. Something must have happened, and she had to close her eyes, but it was so beautiful. You cannot replicate that. You cannot just close your eyes and say, take a photo. That only happened because of the happiness in the game, the expression, the many years of this work, many years of that. This is an investment. This is not something that you're going to start. I mean, you may get some immediate results. I get people coming out of the class and say, that was actually a really good class. I learned so much. Thank you very much. Fine. But think about 10 years time. What you don't want to do is to look back in 10 years time and say, why have I not done any of that? So that's what you don't want to do. You want to be able to look back and go, right, I've been piling up this amount of information. And I think these vlogs I'm talking about, I did mention that to my students as well. I said, sometimes we talk, I'm trying to avoid go round and round circles talking about the same thing in many different ways once they already understand, because that just might waste a bit of time. But I did say that this philosophical approach, these conversations, although they are very, very important right now, but they're even more important in the future, because with time they really do amount to the philosophical approach of each group, each master, each center, whatever you want to call it. So we shall not underestimate this exploration, because as important as it is now for us to train, it is as we pile up, and you can change, things change. How much have I changed? And you bounce off different artists, you learn different things, and of course, you mutate, you keep some, you let it go of other things. But then after 5, 6, 7, 10, 50 years, whatever, you look back and you know that you've just amounted an incredible amount of information, and you can start to define your work a little bit more, even though I like to think that our work is also always redefining, but you can start to identify, oh, that's the philosophical approach of that school, and that is shown through its movements, of course. It's in the harder that you're going to see that, the musicality in the harder, but nevertheless, we have to invest into this. Well, basically, I think I've covered a little bit of this. Now we have to get to work. Now we have to think of ways that we can draw this energy. Because I know I can't just turn up to class and say, do a sad hole, please. Even though I do that, my students laugh. But yesterday this guy did a movement which was we had to simulate a fall. So he did a lift of the leg and then fell in queda de três. And then it was very beautiful. It was quite, it was great. And then I said, can you do it again, please? And then he did much faster and was a bit too happy. And I said, that's too happy now. And the students laugh. What do you mean by too happy? Well, you just, because I told you it was great. And it's nothing wrong with being happy in that movement. But I just want you to discover that quality that you just had that. When you think about the expression, it's an endless world. Right. The other day I did a class where someone did AU. You were not too close to each other, okay, because that's the danger of the foot. But I said, sometimes when someone does a slow AU or something and you're standing, okay, and you've got a certain distance, just the way you express, just the way you look that person doing the AU. I mean, can you see how, that for me, it resonates so much in my, let's say, my artistic vein, the way I can appreciate a movement and express that, because I'm not just standing there going, well done, oh, that's beautiful. There's something which is a capoeira thing that I'm learning from the masters, that I observe the AU, and then that gives me some motive to move and then go to the floor, and then we connect. And so when you can see a painting, an abstract painting, you can feel something. That's what we're talking about. It's not about, I read something interesting about the camera. When we buy a camera, okay, so as I said, some people might like this, but most of us, we're not buying a camera because we really want to understand every button and how to open and what kind of springs does the camera have, or, we want to take great photos. It's how we express the expression of the photos, the beauty of that photo, that you take a portrait of someone's face. So it's all about that stuff. So think about your movements as learning, and absolutely want to get great brushes. You want to have great painting. You want to buy a good canvas. Yes, but what is going to be painted? The combination of the colors, the size of the strokes. And that's what the creativity in capoeira is. So the movements are a different means to express yourself. Okay? Right, thank you so much. This was vlog 17 about creativity. Tip of the iceberg, just touching upon the subject. We can go very deep into this. We can start to look at examples of capoeira and demonstrate that. People have always been fascinated by characters, by this eccentric energy that some people have, and it's all to do what I'm telling you now. Of course, you have to have content for it. We talk about that in capoeira as well. Some people are a bit of a theater and a bit of a pantomime and don't have the content for it, and that's fine. That's not the expression of an artist. But of course, we want to. I appreciate those who have a content, who have experience, and who also have that side that is personal to the artist itself. And we can start now. It's not just a talk for mestres or teachers. We can start talking about this now and exploring your capoeira. I mean, we do that to children. Children do a lot of role plays in capoeira and a lot of activities. They are activities, but they do a lot of exploration with the mind. Why do we get to adults and then all we're going to do is to just follow? Okay? But remember, it's a combination. Slowly, steady, but with passion. Axé. Obrigado.